Hello, welcome to Miss Peepers Reading Corner. I'm Katrina, aka Miss Peepers. Let's talk about book banning. 10 years ago, in 2015, the American Library Association tracked 229 attempts to censor 193 titles across the United States. In 2024, these numbers were significantly higher, 821 attempts to censor 2,452 titles. To give you a visual, this shelf behind me contains about 403 books, which means that last year, censors tried to remove 6 times the number of unique titles that I have behind me. By the way, those are just unique titles. Censors have bandwagons just like anybody else, and they love to ban the same books again and again and again. I imagine that you, looking at my surroundings, looking at my channel, are entirely unsurprised that I am firmly anti-censorship. Books are a treasure that everyone should have access to. So I just have one question. What the hell is going on? Before I try to answer that, though, we need to define a few terms just so we're all on the same page. Book challenges are attempts to remove materials from a library or classroom. Book bans are successful challenges. Materials are taken from the shelves and no longer available to library patrons or classroom students. Censorship is any attempt to remove or suppress written materials or artwork that is considered a threat to the censor. While we often talk about banning books, this can really happen with any type of media: newspapers, magazines, audiobooks, music, videos, and artwork, because libraries contain all sorts of stuff, which is awesome. Think about this for a moment. Bans and challenges go after books that someone somewhere finds threatening. And we've all heard the pen is mightier than the sword, but this feels a bit ridiculous. Or, is it? What happens to a person when they read? There have been studies suggesting that social and cognitive abilities increase when people read, that neuroimaging shows the social and cognitive areas of a person's brain lighting up while they are reading. And more subjectively, reading gives you a glimpse into someone else's worldview, someone else's life. This happens in both fiction and nonfiction. Even the most outlandishly fantastical story contains the author's worldview. That's how humans work. You can't just turn it off when you write something. Now, if you are a particularly strict parent or, say, an authoritarian government, you may not want to encourage thought in your children or your citizens. And while I wish this discussion were purely hypothetical, we're watching this unfold right now. Last month, Jimmy Kimmel was taken off the air because the American president does not like being the butt of people's jokes, and a bit that Kimmel made about the death of Charlie Kirk turned into a perfect excuse to try to silence him. Now, this comedian is back, and he's become the center of a discussion about freedom of speech and censorship. And my sum up of this situation, which is probably a bit reductive, but whatever, it's my channel, I'm going with it, is that the American government put pressure on a broadcasting corporation to be nicer to politicians, specifically right-wing MAGA politicians on late night TV. And y'all, we don't tune into late night TV to watch comedians be nice to politicians. Quite the opposite. And sure, that example is not about books, but it is about censorship and it is about speech. And it all connects in my mind. The best comedy, in my opinion, is written by intelligent and well-read people, even if the comedy is just fart jokes. And even scatological humor is offensive to a lot of people, apparently. Another frequently banned book series, Captain Underpants by Dav Pilkey, is full of fart and poop jokes, and it is banned all the time. Now, my opening statistic was a teensy bit deceptive because I wanted you to keep watching. Over the past couple of years, the number of reported challenge and ban attempts has gone down a little bit from a high in 2022, 1,031 attempts to ban 2,571 titles. Notice though that I said reported, because the thing is, these numbers are reported by librarians, by teachers, and by members of the community who, by the way, first need to know that that censorship attempt is happening, which is not always easy. While we can't know for sure just how many challenges are not reported, given the state of the public discourse in the United States, I have a really hard time believing in that decrease. It is becoming dangerous to stand up to censorship, particularly in more conservative parts of the country. Take, for example, Amanda Jones, otherwise known as That Librarian, which is also the title of her book. In 2022, she spoke up against censorship in a public library board meeting, and as a result, she got death threats and accusations that she was trying to give pornography to children. She was not doing that, not even a little bit, and unfortunately, this did not stop her. We love that for us, but it would be understandable if someone feared for their personal safety and made decisions not to do that. That was 3 years ago. Things have gotten worse. Now, I'm an American, if you can't tell from my accent and the various context clues of this video, and one of the core tenets of our government is freedom of speech. It is a right that has been declared for the American people, freedom of speech. This means in a nutshell that as long as you're not causing people harm, you can say whatever you want. Now, freedom of speech is not the same as freedom from consequences, but those consequences should not include censorship. And there are some complex discussions around what you can say, for example, on social media. YouTube has the right to take down my video because they are a private corporation. That's not the same as censorship. So it can get confusing at points, but when we're talking about removing books from public libraries because you don't agree with what's in them, that is censorship. I will talk about libraries and librarians in a later video, so like and subscribe so you don't miss it. But I'll just say briefly that deciding what books to put in a limited physical space is not censorship. That is practicality. You can only carry so many books, so you've got to think about what serves your community best and what books are good for that particular population. Removing books because you disagree with them, because you think that other people should not be allowed to read them, that is censorship. And usually challenges come with a political stance wrapped in a little package of community care with a tag that says, think of the children. And censors are thinking of the children. They are thinking that children should be protected from all ideas that they consider to be morally wrong. And I say they consider. There are some things that we can pretty much all agree. Don't murder someone. That's morally wrong. But then there are other things that are more subjective. And also, just because we might agree that murder is wrong, does that mean children should not know that it exists? Does that mean that they should never read a book that refers to that? And at what age do you stop? Because at least in the United States, you're considered a child until you turn 18. Are you telling me that a 7-year-old and a 17-year-old should be reading the same things? And are you telling me that a 17-year-old can't understand from the context clues of a book that that book is saying that murder is a bad thing? But it's a thing that happens? And what about children running into these things in real life? Because some of them unfortunately do. Now you're putting them in a situation where they are dealing with something that they've never heard of, that they know nothing about, and are therefore less equipped to handle than if they were aware of that happening. If they were aware that that was a possibility, if they were aware that some people are manipulative, that some adults wish them harm, and that some other people should probably be avoided. And the censors will say, well, yes, let's just not tell them about gay people so they won't know that gayness is a thing, so they'll never be gay. That is not how queerness works. I probably don't have to tell you if you've gotten this far in the video, but I'm gonna say it anyway. That is not how it works. Because there really are people who believe that just admitting to a child that something exists will prompt that child to go out and try it. Children are actually capable at a fairly young age of crafting moral stances for themselves, of understanding the difference between right and wrong. And yes, they still need adults to protect them, but that doesn't mean that they can't make decisions on their own in a limited space when adults are not present. Also, hiding information from children doesn't necessarily mean they won't get to it, especially now in the age of the internet. So do you want them to get good information? If so, I don't know, maybe parent your kid, talk to them about stuff. You know, when they do read a book, give them space to express their thoughts and feelings about it in a non-judgmental way. I know this is easier said than done, but like, that isn't that part of a parent's job? I feel like it is. But ultimately, this argument, think of the children, is just a thinly veiled excuse to be bigoted. The truth is that book challenges, bans, they disproportionately affect people in marginalized communities. And that is because censors are disproportionately trying to silence people in marginalized communities, whether they admit that or not, to themselves or to others. Throughout this month, we're going to be talking about approximately 24 banned books. It won't take much attention on your part to notice some patterns. Very few of the books that I'm going to talk about are by and about white, cisgendered, straight Christian men. Some are, but most of them are not. And by the way, the white, cis, straight Christian men that are on that list, they are banned because they are speaking up for people with less privilege than they have. Basically, what I'm saying is they're not being targeted because they are white, cis, straight Christian men, you know? Censorship is an incredibly heavy topic, especially recently, because it has become more and more prevalent in places like the United States where it's not supposed to be so prevalent. A lot of the books that are challenged have been targeted because they force the reader to face uncomfortable truths. And to be clear, I don't spend all day sitting in a dark corner of my library, sipping tepid water and reading dark, depressing novels. Variety is a good thing. Cheerful books are a good thing. Happy books that don't make you confront the true nature of humanity, those are good too. But reading banned books gives you a good idea of what it is that scares people who are in power, because they know their power is dependent on us allowing them to stay there. If you read, if you understand how other people live, if you get that your experience is not the only one that exists, and if you know how to listen to a statement and pick out inconsistencies and perhaps untruths, you are better equipped to stand up for yourself and for your community. I'm going to post one video a day throughout October in celebration of Banned Books Week. I would love for you to watch every single one of them. That would be great for me, great for my channel. But I also want you to take care of yourself. So be mindful of content warnings, pause or eject if you need to, and you can always come back. And whatever you do, please keep reading, and I will see you in the next one.